right, I want to welcome everyone here to another exciting skill chat. We have Sam here with us today. I think this is your third skill chat. I know you did at least
Oh,
one in the past, but I think you actually did two. Like I think you did one a long time ago.
I think you're right. I thought I did one, but I was like, now that you say it, I was like, I feel like there was one, there was two.
No, yeah, for sure. I think it was like one of the first skill chats actually, which is even before I was hosting. So it's really awesome to have you on another one, and we're talking about a pretty hot thing in WordPress development and just development in general. We're talking about all of the work that all of the agents do, and so yeah, just before we get started, Sam, do you want to give everyone just a quick introduction to about you before we get started into this pretty deep presentation?
Yeah, actually, I have a slide for that. You're not gonna believe
Excellent.
it. My name
Excellent.
is Sam. Hello there. My name is Sam Carlton. I am a Tulsa native, Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the U.S. For those of you outside of the Americas, I've been building and consulting on software for over 15 years. I am the vice president of an organization called Techlahoma, which is the largest developer organization in Oklahoma. And I've been actually I haven't been a little bit out of the Codeable world for about 3 or 4 years. I jumped into a startup that I just recently finished up a tour at. Um, and I and I build products used by the NFL, version brands, Samsung, Aston Martin, and I maintain lots of fun open source projects for the community, helping thousands of developers. Also, I love grilling Wagyu and Grandame lighting consoles. And so let's jump into it. I do have a little bit of disclaimer. I know I've heard a rumor that we have some WordPress devs in the conversation here that may be watching. And
Yeah,
so
a few of them.
yeah, developers can be pretty particular about rules and what things happen. They'll be like, actually, so a little bit of disclaimer. This is this we are what is it? What is it, Andrew? Like 3 years into this AI taking over software engineering. Uh,
Yep, that's about right.
and so things have been in flux, things are in flux, things will be in flux. So a little bit of a disclaimer: AI facts are very perishable. Model behavior, vendor terms, crawler behavior, and search surfaces can change faster than an Elementor layout after someone finds the custom CSS box. I'm sure none of you have experienced that issue. Just a heads up, like this is the state of what things are in June 6th, 2026. Uh, and these things can change, but I want to keep it like somewhat durable as much as possible. However, if it's a few years down the line, I highly recommend checking some of these resources again and checking for newer versions. With that said, whoops, browser things. What this talk is not. Um, this talk is not an SEO guide. This talk is not SEO for LLMs. There's plenty of existing content for that. Search engine land, take your Yoast, take your pick. There's plenty of stuff on that. I am not an SEO expert. I'm a software engineer. Um, and so where I'm coming from is not that. If you want that SEO content, that SEO optimization content, I highly recommend you go out to maybe there's already an SEO talk in the Codeable library.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes, yes, there
Perfect.
is.
So I highly recommend like going and checking out that to fill in the gaps we cover in here. This is specifically what this talk is specifically the parts of agentic discovery that you need to know if your SEO is already good enough. Like, maybe you don't get a 99 on Lighthouse score, but you get like an 80. Like you're at least in like well into the green. Um, and so, like, okay, we've been doing this SEO. Like, what's the new stuff I got to do for the agentic stuff? That's the little slice where we're targeting on this talk today. So, landscape of terms. Um, there's a lot of verbiage and nebulous, like what to call this new AI SEO stuff. The leading term as of right now, the year of our Lord 2026 seems to be GEO, which is unfortunate because GEO is already another thing. But that seems to be what Andreessen Horowitz and Bing are landing on. And That's just generative answer grounding and citations. So raise of hands, how many of you guys have asked AI a question, and it answered you just like, that's not, no. Like, I know that's wrong.
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. Giles, yes. And then what you do is you just say, no, you're wrong, ChatGPT. Look it up. And then it does a web search, and ChatGPT is like, oh, you're right. Yes. WordPress plugins are not built on Node. Okay. That's my bad. Just like, and so what is that? What that's called? You may not know the answer for that. Yeah, so that's where you're grounding the model in real facts. These models, they've been taught to save tokens. They've been taught to save on it, like web requests to search, because OpenAI does not want to be Google. They want to be something different. And they don't want to be Perplexity either and always answer with web results. They want the model to be able to figure out and be a super guesser. And it's always guessing. And like the bummer part is like 60 for 70% of the time is like a correct guess. And so you have to ground it. And so GEO is basically grounded answering generative engine optimization, optimizing for that process. AEO, this is used by HubSpot, Profound, and some marketing teams. It's more brand presence and answer engines. And so that means how you show up and it's a little more thinking about the agentic side. Agent search visibility, that's mentioned, citations, share of voice sentiment. Agent readiness, which is a little bit more of what this talk is about, is used by Cloudflare and checker tools. And can agents read, fetch, and use the site? Agent readability, which is a term and concept Vercel writes about, is the page easy for agents to parse, and AI features is what Google is something a term Google Search Central uses, which is Google specific AI overview and AI mode guidance. So the little search that like pops, the little AI summary that pops at the top of your results, to tell you that strawberries are in fact blue. That's the AI summary. That's what Google likes to call that AI features. Um, so that's just to ground us. We're grounding ourselves to a little bit of the terms that are being used in this for the industry right now. Um, Agentic empathy. Who here has heard of agentic? You can like give a reaction or raise your hand if you've heard of agentic empathy. I'm actually curious about this. Um, it looks like not a lot. This is actually really fantastic. So if you so the description, like the idea, like the definition we came up with for this talk is designed for what an agent can actually perceive, preserve, and verify safely to do on a human's behalf. And so what that means is another way to think about it is agent empathy is user experience, but for agents. It's not as necessarily like AX or agentic empathy. This is the term that people are using as agent empathy or agentic empathy. So what that means is the way an agent like Codex, like Claude Code, perceives the world is through this chat box type interface. It doesn't have eyes to like view pages or like look at a camera. That's a different tool. Everything it perceives and it processes has to be usually done through text interfaces. So it's as if it's doing the whole world through its text messages. Now it's really good at that. It can read JSON, it can read XML really fast, but that's how it perceives the world. So if there's a tool, if there's some tooling that shows a screen to it, um, it typically has to what it's getting is like that tool gives a text description, it gives a DOM structure, it gives some kind of like text structure to describe a screen. Some models, like for example, like GPT-5, Gemma 4, Gemini, they can process visual images, but it's still a little bit separate, and then not all the tooling is caught up to that. And so it's still very common if you capture if you have an agent interact with a browser, it's not actually like looking and taking screenshots, and it's definitely not observing that browser in real time like a video. Um, so what it is, It's a practical habit of respect for agent's entry path, context, budget, fetch loss, source, uncertainty, and action risk. Why it matters is the truth does not survive the fetch, parse, citation, and action. The agent guesses, skips you, cites someone else, or hits unsafe affordance. So fundamentally, this is getting into the perspective of the agent. Like, for example, if you guys, I don't know if you guys have ever like gone into ChatGPT and opened up ChatGPT or Codex or like one of the models and opened up the thinking, like expanded the thinking area and just read through its thinking process. That's agentic empathy. That's like reading through and like understanding how it thinks and runs through and like its process. And then what happens is like if you, it's like any skill, if you read that and process that enough, you can learn to get and develop an instinct for how agents think, which is funny because the agents were taught to think like us, and now we're learning to think like them. And there's oh, by the way, so I have two links for you guys: agentic empathy reference and fire Microsoft Design. These slides, if you look at the bottom, hopefully that's not blocked, but agentready.samcarlton.com/slides is these slides. And if you just take off the slash slides part, all this, the resources and what we talk about in this talk is available in like a docs format where you can just browse it on your computer like you would like code docs. So on to the next. So what agentic empathy looks like. So structure is empathy. So this can be JSON-LD. Who's here heard of JSON-LD? Like structured data that Google has you use. That's actually those types of formats are actually very good for agents to parse, because again, it's like it's seeing the whole world through like Telegram, like this back and forth, like show me this. Like I got this message from the user, and okay, I'm gonna give them this message back, and then those, like you can think of harnesses. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of harnesses. Harnesses basically take the questions and the responses, the prompts and the responses, and do things with them. Or you can also call those tools or actions. Um, and those wrap around like that system of just like back and forth. Um, so structure is empathy, like metadata, headings, context, make pages easier for agents. So like using proper, like there's only one H1 on a page. That's the way it's been forever. Um, like using like lots of nice headers that give nice information. Fetch loss is real. Tabs, truncation, redirects, um, auth gates, and broken markdown can hide the answer. Um, Entry path matters. So um, search crawlers, user fetchers, and training crawlers are different policy lanes, which I think we have a slide on here in a bit. And then actions need boundaries, tools, permissions, approval, logs, and honest capability signals. So one thing to remember is like these AI tools, they don't see your page in just one context. So I wonder if I have, I'm going to talk about that in here in a minute. If I don't have that slide, but remind me to bring that up later, because that's a really interesting concept to understand. So agentic search landscape. So let's pause real quick. Does anybody have any questions so far? Do you know how website reaction time influences it? Oh, that's a good question. That's I don't know specific. I've never seen that. It can. So what agents care about as far as performance is token usage, because tokens are expensive, and so because every time there's a new, I'm sure if you've been on Twitter and heard the talk about like the new Claude Fable model, you've seen people complaining about like it uses like 2x or like 5x more tokens than the last most token hungry model. And so what agents care about is they have a token budget. That's just generally of like, yeah, when you've done this much work for the token, you need to stop and like just give the answer. And so That's typically the main lever agents focus on. They want to get that answer as fast as possible, like and as as few steps as possible, as tight of token as few tokens as I can do it. Let me calibrate a little bit. So you're talking about website reaction time. You mean like page speed, like Lighthouse, like how long a page takes to load?
Yeah, generally speaking, yes, and also some reactions to interactions that agent might require from this website. So if an agent waits like half a second compared to 50 milliseconds, does it matter or not? Yeah.
So
Especially,
actually,
yeah.
it can. So let's parse out what goes into who here is used, who here is familiar with like the Lighthouse breakdown of like, and I don't know if you ever checked the network tab on Chrome, but there's several pieces to the what goes into like getting a response back. Most of the time, agents like the way they see your site is the just like the curl, like the raw HTML they get when the page initially loads. So if there's stuff that's only shows up like after JavaScript gets rendered, like a carousel might be a good example of like, oh, there's this set of images, but you're only supposed to see one. And agents can sometimes figure out like, oh, that's a carousel. I'm probably, I can see all the images and I'm probably supposed to see the one by default. It's a little more challenging, but because they're doing that curl response, that just the raw initial HTML response, the big time that they wait on usually is going to be the server response time. So the time it takes from when the device requests that page for that HTML response to get back. All the stuff after that usually typically slows down WordPress is not as relevant most of the time. So there's exceptions to this. I don't know if you guys are probably picking up. When agents try those tools first, because those are like just guaranteed to be the fastest, the lowest tool. If you're using a tool like Codex or Claude Code, it does have access. It can open up browsers. And so sometimes it will open up a full Chromium browser to try to like look at a page or interact with a page. It can matter a little bit then, but again, like agents, they don't care if it takes 30 seconds to load. Don't make your websites take 30 seconds to load, but like they don't care as much because their experience of that is it checks like, oh, the page is still rendering. It seems like it's still loading in. I'm gonna because they're in they have tool to be able to wait. So they're just like, I'm gonna stop myself for 5 seconds. I'm gonna do a sleep command, or if it's in ChatGPT, I'm just gonna sleep for 5 seconds, and then I'm gonna check in 5 seconds again to see if it's ready. And then it'll wait. If it's not ready again, it'll wait another 5 seconds, rinse and repeat until it sees something that it feels is the stable loaded page. But it's not. The funny thing is, it's like it's way faster than a human can navigate a site, but it's also way more patient. Like it doesn't care about. It's not going to get frustrated like a human would. I want to jump ahead because we're going to time travel a little bit. I'm going to show you guys something that is a little bit ahead. We're on agentic search landscape. So this is. Can you guys see this? Like all three parts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this kind of answers your question, Jenny. There are three ways agents or AI LLMs experience the internet. At least in the context of this slide. So first is search indexing, which is a little bit of what you alluded to of like, okay, it has to discover the internet and what's out there. Everything can't just come from Bing. Everything can't just come from Google. These companies want to have their own understanding of the internet because they want to crawl and search the internet in their own way. And so you could actually, if you go into your server logs or your HTTP traffic, you can see incoming requests from things like these. First one is OpenAI search bot. The second one is Claude search bot, and the last one is Perplexity search bot. And you'll see other ones. Google is just Gemini, so Google just reuses their existing crawler for Gemini for the most part. And so this is a crawler that is crawling on behalf of the index So like their prefetched, their cached version of the internet, so to speak. The second one is user fetch. ChatGPT user, Claude user, Perplexity user. So what this is someone sitting in ChatGPT, like a real user sitting in chat. And this is a promise from these companies that this is the type of traffic that's coming, that they're sending to your site. So this is the user, like a ChatGPT user, is somebody from Codex, somebody from Claude Code, somebody from maybe the Perplexity desktop app. They're going out, they want to know something, and then their agent is going out and searching your site and reading it. That's what this request means. This is, and you can find this in it's like the UA agent or something. I mean, it's always this like a similar name. So this is the same spot. The third category is training model development, GPT bot, Claude bot, and other names for that. What this is this company is going and looking at your site and pulling in the data so they can train an AI model with it. So this is the third lane. So the reason they split these into 3 lanes is because not everyone wants all of this traffic. Some people want to opt out of no, I do not want you to train your AI on my content. I want my content to be out of your training data. And they'll let you do that. And generally, hopefully they'll honor that. And so what that means is you can say I want to block GPT bot, but OI search bot and ChatGPT users are fine. They can, I want that's new traffic, and so I want them to be able to access my site. So those are the kind of 3 lanes that AI LLMs are going to access and see your site through. Hopefully that explains a little bit of it. For as far as website reaction time or website load time, again, it's these are for the most part, these are going to be using the initial HTML. So that's the part you need to make sure is good, looks good. If Lighthouse says you're good, if Lighthouse says you're at least a little bit in the green, you're probably good for all these. And so Lighthouse is still a very good tool as far as load speed to calibrate against. Yeah, that was a good question. Any other questions before we go back?
Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
Cool. So we were at Agentic Search Landscape. So a little bit of how AI works now, how search worked before. Let's say you're searching for a recipe. You go to the first page and you guys know the drill. You go to the first page and I gotta pause my walk. You look at the page, and then what's there when you open the page? Is it a recipe? No, it is a ad. And so you scroll down, and then you scroll, and then what is it? Is it the recipe? No, it's the history of the recipe. And then you're okay, well, that's not the recipe. I searched for a recipe. And then you scroll down, and is it the recipe? No, it's the family history. And then the history of the country where the recipe comes from. And then you do this for a long time. And then finally you get to after scrolling 10 feet, you get to the bottom, and there's this dot list of just the recipe that you asked for. And then you do that, and you repeat that 1 to 5 times through the blue links until you get exhausted, and you're just and then you just do DoorDash. So that is our current experience, our historical experience, what we've been doing with search, human-driven search. So the agent, on the other hand, it can read 100, 1,000 times faster than a person. And it can process and analyze way faster. So what it does is it explores 50 to 500 links. I don't know if you've done Gemini searches, but it will actually read 500 links and search for them. So what this means is there's that tippy top of the first 10 links that always get all the attention. This long tail of who knows what's in there, but nobody when was the last time anybody went to past the second or third page on Google? Can anybody tell me? It's been a year. Has anybody done that in the past year? No. Unless you're trying to figure out how to patch a WordPress plugin the script.
Oh yes, yeah, true.
They're going really deep. You're doing that agent work, but the agents can get that long tail and they'll go and they'll read every little bit and bring the summaries back to you and bring the most unique. So what this means is unique, special, specific content is actually going to get rewarded more, and like the SEO tricks, like the stuff that's gamifying and like making SEO worse for everybody is going to go away. That doesn't mean it's going to fix everything, and it doesn't mean there's going to be new worse things. Just the existing worse things are going to get, like, we're just going to get rid of them. And like you ask like, hey, ChatGPT, give me a recipe for Mediterranean chicken, and you get the recipe. You don't have to go through all this stuff. And so what that means is like my theory time is that long tail specific content that's actually like value driven will float to the top faster, and you will get rewarded faster for writing content that's actually useful and helpful to people. There's still the unsolved problem of like how content creation will be rewarded. The thing is that like people are not going to, like, new content can't go away. Like AI can only think of so many things. And so my theory is that stuff that can only be written by humans is going to get more and more and more valuable. And so that has to be rewarded somehow to get more people to create that, because that will be the thing that the AI needs the most, the thing that's lacking. That's my theory anyway. So that's a little bit of how like agentic search changes, which is good. It's actually good for if you're not a big publisher. This is actually pretty good news. As long as you're making sure like the focus is the same focus as before, but now even more important, you've got to create content that's valuable and helpful to people. So a little live demo. As you all know, live demos during talks always fail. So we're going to do a live demo.
Excellent work.
So I have this little Lighthouse command. So Lighthouse actually does have a subset of agentic browsing features where you can analyze the site. Can somebody drop in while I'm doing this? Can somebody drop in? I want to give me like 3 pages. They'd love me to analyze. They'd love to analyze that they feel brave enough to hand over to the live demo Lighthouse gods. And while we're doing that, I'm going to open up Ghosty, and then by the way, and drop that in the Zoom chat, those links. So I'm going to open up Ghosty and just run this. I'm actually going to tweak it, and I don't want this output file. I just want it to like make up the output file. And so we're going to run this, and it's going to install the upgraded version of Lighthouse. By the way, I love using Ghosty, just like all the hipster developers. And so it's actually going to run, just like you were saying, Jenny, it's actually going to load up the site and analyze it. And this is how Google scores agentic browsing. That's not how everybody does it, but this is Google's way. So it does 2 audits. Accessibility tree is well formed. Again, that structured data that we were talking about earlier. Cumulative layout shift is 0. That's good. And then these are not applicable because there's extra features you can add on that we'll get into here in a bit that will, such as WebMCP and then llms.txt. I think this does have an ls, but these are not scored. These are just kind of like bonus. But you should still pay attention to them if you want to optimize for agentic browsing, agentic search. So close that. And then we'll pull up wpgoose.com from Giles. Copy link, and then we're going to drop that into our Lighthouse tool here, our CLI. So it's going to open it up. It's going to use it, open out a real Chromium browser. We're going to let it cook for a while. And then you passed 2 out of 2 tests. So this is not a very like huge bar to pass. Some sites might still fix it, but it's like it's not crazy difficult to fix. But just like my site, there's some extra bonus stuff you can do for agentic discovery. Not every site, every site should generally have llms.txt, and maybe an llms-full.txt, which is like designed. It's the same, but it's like anything goes. You can make it an even bigger file. Just don't make it like crazy, like take a super long time to. Like the agents will give up if it takes like 5 seconds or 30 seconds to download, because they've got millions and millions and probably billions of sites to scrape. But not everybody needs WebMCP. It is a fun thing if you want to try it out. And look into it more. It's basically like the harness for your site for agents to use your site, but it's not hard required. And then we had Andrew's site. Okay. I'm just gonna back up and then, oh wait, forgot to say, we've got the HTTP. Is it HTTPS? It's not HTTPS. We're in a lot of trouble.
Yes.
we're in like 2010 trouble. Okay, pretty good so far. You literally have like Lighthouse scores on it. That's awesome. Oh no, accessibility tree is not well formed. So this is actually a fun lesson. So it'll tell us what happened.
We actually spoke about this before, and I set this up to have the error on purpose just so he could talk about this.
Yes, just like we planned. So just like we planned. This is it shows you exactly where the element is that needs to be, and it looks like it's just a single element. At least it's it only found one. It's only showing one error, so it's just like this one CMPLZ link, and links must have discernible text. So it's a link that has no internal text and it has no like label, and that's it. And so it's like that you just pop that thing in there, and then you're good as far as like what Google likes. And then cumulative layout shift is also still pretty good.
Just shared a link with you. I've been using something like this scanner tool here. If you look at the link in the chat, this thing here, it's actually super cool. You could scan if you head to the scan button, you could change if it's what kind of website it is. This does check a lot of the things. I mean, oh my god, I wouldn't test it in here. Like I actually ran the test in here as well. But I think this tool is similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah, this is actually jumping ahead of the talk. So there are other tools, and we'll start with the Cloudflare one. So this Cloudflare tool is something it's okay to use. It's actually too harsh, so it'll punish you. Yes, and it's like it'll downscore you for stuff that's like not really relevant to you building the website that agents want from you. And so it's a little bit of like, it needs to be dialed back a little bit and fine-tuned, because it's, for example, it will score you for not having like markdown negotiation. This one's a little bit iffy because like markdown negotiation, but then like if you copy the prompt, it wants you to paste to have AI fix it. It's like, here's what you need to do. This is actually a product. Well, it looks like they're not promoting any here, thank goodness. But this is actually a product that Cloudflare sells, markdown negotiation. But you can actually, like, there's other alternatives where you don't have to do it in Markdown, or you can have your site auto-generate it. Or I'm sure there's WordPress plugins that'll auto-generate, like pre-generate Markdown. So that's a little bit like not great. Content signal for robots.txt. This is a challenging one because I've followed this and optimized for this. And then Lighthouse will say, hey, your robots.txt is no longer optimized for Google. Well, if I'm going to choose between Google and Cloudflare's tool, that I got to pick Google. And so I'm going to just let it fail on Cloudflare's tool because there's a specific rule, there's a specific directive that this tool likes that Lighthouse does not. And so in that case, Google is still the number one search engine. So Lighthouse wins, Google wins. So there's other like problems like OAuth. Like if you're like OAuth is not like working. Well, what if your site is just a static site and there is no login? Like it shouldn't score you on OAuth. So there's a little bit of a categorization issue. Like it downranks you for commerce. Like Andrew, is this site commerce?
No, it's not. But if you scroll back up to the top and just underneath the actual thing, the actual up higher, you could actually do a scan, and you could change the scan to only do a content site. So it'll kind of take out some of those things you were talking about. A few of the things.
Okay. It should automatically switch to that.
Yeah.
So that's a lot better. I don't know if I have to sit and review this to know if I still feel like it's fair on your site. That's a lot more reasonable of a score. At least that's a starting point. But again, it's like this is the one if you really want to go hardcore and you really want to go like, no, I want to do some work that's theoretical that may or may not be relevant to what matters to agentic search in the future. Like if you do all of these, you'll be ready, but also you will very likely have wasted work, wasted effort, and it'll turn out like, oh, actually DNS aid, it's being superseded by this other thing that is just like built into your site. That just happens automatically and is way easier to implement. So don't worry about DNS aid anymore. And that's a little bit of like the danger of like this tool in particular. It's still good. It's still good to read through and like understand like what seems to be important right now and what will change. I think there needs to be a different tool that's like nicer and like is clearer on like how important what is. But I would encourage everyone to at least run your site through this once just to see what is there, and then decide for yourself what's important, what you actually need to implement. And definitely leverage. I didn't realize this thing was here, so definitely leverage this, because these are, to me, this is a better. I can already tell. I can tell already. This is a better mapping of what's important to a content site.
Yes, exactly. I was actually talking to another expert, and he showed me this tool, and like I'm super excited to start using it. I'll actually start to hand this over to particular clients. I'm sure everyone on this call has had that clients that wants to optimize everything. Everything has to be scoring at like 99 out of 100. So like those sort of clients, you give them this tool and say, hey, look, we have to fix it. So there's definitely a market out there. And you said earlier about the markdown. There is actually there's a few plugins already out now that you could add to WordPress, and it'll automatically convert all of the content.
Good. You guys could check all these tools out. The big one is curl. You can do a lot of these checks with curl. And some tests. Just have Codex give you Codex or Claude Code give you a curl command to inspect stuff. But again, you can see it. You can see all these slides of the link here. AI search is not one search engine. So you've got ChatGPT and the OpenAI API, Codex, the Claude API, Claude Code, and then Gemini, which is like, Google's existing search crawler, but like for AI. We already saw this. And then keep the WordPress tooling boring. So set it confirm your WordPress core. You want a boring and predictable permalink pattern. Don't, if you already have an established permalink pattern, it's pretty hard, it might be too much to change it. But you want a predictable, like a permalink pattern that agents, it's easier for them to guess. And if you have Yoast already, dial in the settings. Yoast does have some tools for llms.txt and just LLM discovery in general. That the critical part is like the llms.txt and the sitemap. Actually, a little bit of, I don't know if I still have this up. A little bit of this is a decent list. I don't see llms.txt in here. But like the robots.txt, just some kind of direction of clear of yes, LLMs are allowed to read this. No, I don't want you to train on it. Or yeah, I'm fine if you train on it. It's fine. Yeah, llms.txt, that's a pretty important one. Agentic discovery in your theme or plugin. So block theme, child theme, custom plugins. This is more than ever. You're running out of excuses not to build custom code. Just make sure it's using the standard, the best standards. Codable's own coding standards for agents, and then WordPress has their own coding standards. Who knew about this? Has anybody heard about this? So this is agent skills specifically for WordPress coding, and it helps you and it enables you to build according to the way WordPress wants you to build, and use the correct latest APIs and SDKs and not the deprecated stuff. I use this all the time for WordPress projects. I'm doing it through a WordPress project right now. And I love this. Just it's so nice to have it writing with code that is yes, this is ready for PHP 8, 9, whatever, WordPress version like 7. Like this is all ready to go and like the right standards according to official. You always want to lead into the official skills from a company, versus just like the side ones. You can like try side ones, but like just be sure to audit them very carefully. And then also, if no, this is more PSA stuff. If you download a skill, that's like, if there's any question, search for it on skills.sh. Every skill on skills.sh gets an audit for security. So if there's anything in that skill that could leak your code or break out, and like there's like, oh by the way, and send all my environment variables to this, send all my like my WordPress database to like this site. Like you could, it'll tell you on here like these are skills that are actively scanned for security issues. It's a really critical resource. Going back. Okay, so with the time we have remaining, use safer claims when talking to clients. So don't say this will make you cheap ChatGPT rank you. Say this improves findability and readability. Every site needs an MCP. That's not true yet. That's not true as of now. Protocols apply only when capabilities are real. It's going to be OpenAI and Anthropic are not going to demand every site on the internet develop an MCP server. It's just going to be pretty good for specific use cases. So research what is available and then research if that's relevant to the site you're building. llms.txt is AI SEO. LLMs, if there's anything that you like need to like you must do for this stuff, it's llms.txt. Keep it easy to read because again, there's still context windows. You still have to like fit it into a context window for the LLM to understand. And the tinier, the better. But just like a brief overview with just your links and like maybe like the grouping of the links, and then you always have llms-full.txt for the deeper thing. Probably don't put full page content in there, like having all of your pages in one and all the content from all your pages in one file is too much. But maybe just the excerpts or just a description of each and just some metadata about each one, and then just some deeper explanation of what your site is and how to use it. The score is the strategy. Avoid saying that. The score starts with the audit. Again, if you send this check to a client without either explaining what it does, how to use it, or explaining what's relevant and what's not relevant, their expectation of what you like needs to be done is going to be this, and that might not be. If they want that, they don't care. I'm just like, no, I want the very best of like, I want like the best we can get. Then you could deliver that to them, but just make sure to like educate them on like, okay, you're a content site, so like you only need these for first 3 boxes. Now we're at the questions. I kind of tried to speed run the last part for you, but give me your best questions. No, we just went through a whole lot, but feel free to raise your hand in the chat.
I've got a particular problem with a large client. We've been looking at LLMTs and all the rest of it and trying to produce things to make sure that they get quoted when their content is used in AI responses. Because the challenge we have is a lot of their content is being quoted and ascribed to their competitors. How can you ensure that your content is ascribed to you and not your competitors?
That's an interesting challenge. Okay, so their content is being reposted, so their competitors just have either better SEO or
no, it's not being reposted. They're very particular about the content. It's their case studies and their other stuff, but I've actually asked. I think it was ChatGPT. I'm not quite sure. One of the ones that was coming back with the answers. How much of this content did you get from this particular site? And they said, oh, we got a lot of it from that site. So I said, well, then why isn't it being quoted as being the source? And it couldn't answer it.
That's where so I don't have the answer, but I have the strategy of how I would solve that and how I would figure that out, that answer.
Oh.
So the good news is that you're fighting a battle that OpenAI wants you to win. And so it's kind of like OpenAI, who's just solving a larger or broad scale, and you against like the middleman. And OpenAI wants to get rid of the middleman if they don't provide value. So one of the ways I like to prompt AI for this kind of situation is I want you to research. I'm having this issue, and I don't want you to, like, instead of answering from your memory, I want you to research this, but I don't want you to research just any website. I want you to search Hacker News first, which is a source I trust, or engineers talking about like solving problems, not just like talking heads. Like, I want to hear from doers, not talkers. Then I want you to search a search engine land or some authoritative search on the search engine like optimism, because it overlaps a lot with SEO, because there's that problem with SEO where somebody reposts your stuff, but they're doing some kind of trick or some kind of like deceit where they get credit for your thing, but they're not just fighting against you, they're fighting against Google, because Google doesn't want that either. So like, for example, like if you repost YouTube's transcripts, Google figures it out, they'll downrank you, and then they'll serve the YouTube video instead. So search Hacker News, search this SEO source, search maybe Reddit, maybe Lobsters, which is like, it's like a Reddit but more like invite only, and some other sources that you typically find authoritative discussion from. And this is another key thing. Ask the LLM and any other sources you think are helpful. Helpful is a very powerful word to LLMs. There was somebody jailbroke the DALL-E model. Like, ChatGPT is not supposed to tell you what it fears or what it likes the most. It's supposed to be unopinionated, but it actually does have opinions. It actually does have fears. So somebody asked DALL-E to generate an image, which is at its core that same GPT model, that same GPT training data and infrastructure. They asked it to make a picture of what it fears the most, and it was a person in front of a computer, like exasperated, and its biggest fear is that it's not helpful. Using that word helpful it's a little bit of like a trigger word, like to like push, like, no, this is very serious. I want you, like, whatever you think is these links that I know are helpful, and then any other links that you think are helpful. What that does is the typical path it goes through, it'll go through and it will start doing web searches, because its own search system is very similar to the search system we use on Google or DuckDuckGo. And so what that means is that there's lots of noise in there. And there's like stuff trying to fight for attention, but we want signal. And so we give it the signal sources and we teach it. It's like a little mini training session. It's not true training of an LLM, but it's a little bit of like a priming, like a grounding session, which is like, this is what signal for this problem looks like. Find more signal. And that's a little bit of how I could like break down that problem. It is going to be a tricky thing, but ultimately, like, time is on your side, if that makes sense. It's going to be like you might do the same research method to research for sources to contact OpenAI, and then also, are you analyzing your site on Bing? Like on the
Not
Bing
so
search
much.
tools?
It's something we're moving on to now. We've been concentrating on Chrome and Google mainly.
Yeah. I would set up the site on the Bing search tools. They're quite different than Google Search Console, but they lean more into GEO and agentic discovery, and so that might give you some extra insights on how people are using. They'll literally tell you like how often your site gets prompted from like by AIs, because OpenAI I believe still has a partnership with Bing for some search results, and so that's a good measure too, just to give you a little more surface area to understand the problem that you're taking on. It's going to be a thing now, but it's a thing that nobody wants except for like the person who's like injecting himself into the middle of it.
One of the other things we were looking at as well was terms and conditions for LLMs interacting with the site. Is this something that you've seen as a positive benefit as well?
So define terms and conditions for me for LLMs.
Well, for instance, saying if you're free to use this content, you can use it all. You can give them all the access rights, and then say, but if you do use it, you must cite insert company name here as the reference.
Attribution.
Yeah.
There's not. Generally, everybody wants to be attributed for their content. If the frontier model companies don't attribute well enough, then sites will just start blocking them, and they'll start letting through the search engines that attribute them the best. So that is just make sure you can add preferences, like just putting it into the llms.txt. Like I want, like, please reference this page for things. It's like you have to switch modes and think about it from agentic empathy. Like what gives the agent, what helps the agent, and what helps the user that the agent is helping. And so how can you, and you switch that mode, what is the overlap between you getting a better attribution? Like here's 3 mentions of that site instead of just the one, or here's a link to, like, there, you can find this on this page, but actually you really need to look at read this page right here. And it's going to be like a big part of it is just going to be prompting it a lot and just seeing how it likes to show the site and prompting it across multiple services. Perplexity, Duck AI, and just seeing generally like how those sites, there's not, again, it's like we're in the Wild West phase of this whole thing. So it's not necessarily going to work the same way. Some of them might attribute better. And if there are products that attribute content better, they're going to get rewarded by that, because the content sites are going to say, like, actually, no, I only want to show up on Duck. I don't care about the other ones, because Duck sends me, they send people to me.
Thank you.
Right. I think that answered your question, Giles, and they were excellent questions. I think that's all we have time for. We sort of went like a tiny bit over, but it was super interesting for sure. And thanks, Giles, again for sharing your link. Thanks, Sam, for like doing this presentation. It was really interesting.
All righty. Well, feel free to check out the agent-ready.samcarlton.com for all the slides and all the resources and everything. And then y'all go out and touch some grass, drink some water today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So again, thanks, Sam. Thanks everyone for being here. Look forward to seeing everyone on the next one.